The Bible is one big story. The Bible is what? One big story. It's in two halves, the Old Testament and the New Testament. You could call it the Old Contract and the New Contract. And it comes together in what you could call like a pyramid or a triangle. And there are 5 major events in the Old Testament and 5 major events in the New Testament. And those events are mirror images one of the other. And they come to a peak, a point, an apex, and it all turns on the person of Jesus Christ. Once you know the 5 events and that they're a mirror image and it all turns on Jesus, the Bible starts to make sense. So here we go. The first major event is God and righteous people in paradise. Oh, God created us in his image, put us in the Garden of Eden. It was all good. I mean, good relationship with God, great relationship with each other. Everything was good. Well, then what happened? Next major event. Satan and sin enter. And sin unplugs us from God, separates us from us. From him. It brings disease, it brings death, sorrow, loss. All this stuff we're talking about right off the top of the teaching. And so the next major event, the world is judged and destroyed. This is the moment with Noah, where mankind continues to sin and we brought on ourselves death, and so God brings judgment and rescues Noah and his family. In other words, it's a do-over. We often think, man, if we just had a do-over, everything would be better. Well, we got a do-over, and yet mankind returned to continue to sin. And as they increased and multiplied on the earth, the next event is a one-world government. This is the last time there was a one-world government. They all spoke the same language. They were building a tower up to the heavens. And God confused their languages, dispersed them in multiple tribes, and sent them, if you will, back out to increase and multiply. And mankind is just left there with this. We were starting to build a tower that was kind of displaying our own God unto ourselves. And now they're dispersed, and we have this problem of separation and sin, and it's not good anymore like it used to be. And the next major event in the Old Testament starts with Genesis 12, and it's the rest of the Old Testament. It is the Old Covenant. Everybody say it with me. It is the what? Old Covenant. God made a covenant with Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. And through Abraham, he was going to raise up a great nation, give them a great land, and through them would come a great Messiah. God's going to resolve this separation with God because of sin. God's going to take care of it for us. God's on a mission to restore us and redeem us. So the Old Testament, you have the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, God's holy people, and all the prophecy that points to the coming of Jesus. That takes us to Jesus Christ. That is the apex where everything turns. The Old Testament is pointed to it. Now, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels tell the story of Jesus. God in human flesh, God with us. And he lives a life of obedience. He demonstrates grown-up faith, his mind, his heart, his will, fully aligned with the living God. Then he voluntarily dies on the cross to cover our sin debt, and then rises from the dead to prove he conquered sin and death, thereby offering us a new covenant. A what, everybody? A new covenant. See, now we have the mirror image. What was in the Old Testament, the 12 tribes, the nation of Israel, God's holy people, we now have through Jesus, having fulfilled the old covenant, he wrote a new covenant, and that is with the 12 disciples, the church, God's holy people. And the next major event. By the way, if you're at the mall and you look on the map and you say, where am I? They give you a little dot that says, you be here. We are right in the midst of the new covenant. And what's coming? A one world government. It's never happened since the Tower of Babel, recorded in Genesis 11. But it's coming again. And it's a mirror image. That made no sense when the prophecy was stated, but an antichrist will come and rise up, and there will be a unity of language, a unity of economics, and that starts to make sense when you live in a world of the technology and the world's getting smaller. The next major event is the world is judged and destroyed. Peter wrote it this way: it was previously by flood at the time of Noah, next time it will be by fire. The next major event is Satan and sin exit. God's now going to put an end to Satan. He's going to be cast into the lake of fire, and all who followed him and dismissed God and said, God, leave me alone, will join him. We would call it hell. And it ends with God and redeemed people in paradise. See, where everything began, it ends. God is very much on purpose. And it began in the Garden of Eden, and we had the tree of life, and we lost access to it. And now Revelation ends with, now the tree of life is available to us for the healing of the nations. And God is on purpose. He's been on purpose. And where it all started, he's going to make sure it all ends for our good. That's just how on purpose God really is. So we could know his story. Isn't that awesome? Thank you, God, for telling us what you're doing. And we can know his story. And this can make sense and connect in our lives.